Hi, I'm Kathleen Wyman. I write humorous women's fiction and I'm one of the hosts of Author Talks. See how nice and simple that intro was? One name, keeping it easy. And now over to Alison, my lovely guest, who is very nice, but it's not such a simple intro because Alison May, should I call you Alison?
Alison, Amelia, Ali,
That's
whatever you
okay. Yeah.
feel.
Alison May, you also write as Amelia Berry, Ali Sinclair, and Juliet Bell. Please explain yourself.
Well, when I was first published, way back through the mists of time, I feel like we need like a,
Yes,
like fade
okay.
out here, back through the mists of time. 2013, when I was first started writing and submitting, I had a blog. Remember when blogs were a thing? It was terribly modern at the time. And at the time, I worked for the Citizens Advice Bureau, so confidentiality is a really big deal. So I started off just by shortening my real name, and that's how I became Alison May, because May actually isn't my real surname. So even the name that most people who know me as a writer think is my real name
Is it
isn't.
is it mayonnaise or something like that?
Yes, mayonnaise. Yeah, obviously. No,
Lovely.
so it's not a secret. So my full name's Maynard. I just shortened it to kind of keep the distinction from work. And my first five public books were published as Alison May, and that was quite nice and straightforward and lovely. No, first six published books actually were Alison May. Everything was fine with that. And then I wanted to leave that publisher, so I wrote two books in collaboration with a friend of mine, Janet Gover, that were in a completely different genre to move on with our writing. We contracted those two books, but the publisher didn't want two names on the cover. They thought that was confusing. I don't know why, but that was what they thought. So we came up with a joint pen name. So that was Juliet Bell. So we were Juliet Bell for a little bit there.
Mhm.
And then I wanted to go back to writing romantic comedies, but I'd had a bit of a gap. Um, and you will know, Kathleen, publishing is obsessed with what they call track, which is short for track record. So
Mm.
they like to look back over your previous sales and things. And because I'd had a gap where I was doing completely different things under a different name, I didn't have much track record as Alison May. So my agent at that point said, "Oh, I think it'd be easier to sell you basically as a debut again." So I became Ali Sinclair, even though I was still writing in the same genre, rom-com again, as I did as Alison May. I
Yeah.
did two books as Alice Sinclair, up here, Season for Love and The Christmas Season, which personally I think are two of my best books. But sadly, only about eight people read them, and seven of them were related to me. So at that point, that whole issue of track record rears its head again. So even so, I was staying with the same publisher, writing in a similar genre, still rom-com,
Mm.
a little bit sweeter, a little bit less gritty, a little bit less urban, but still romantic comedy. They suggested a change of name. And so I became Amelia Berry. So at the moment, I'm Amelia Berry and I'm writing rom-coms set in the Scottish Highlands. But further, do you want a final twist
I
in this
do.
story?
Please don't
I've
be no delay.
just signed a brand new contract for two paranormal cozy crime novels,
Oh,
and those are going to be
congratulations.
published as Alison May.
Oh, full circle.
Yeah, I've gone all the way back round to the beginning. And
Oh,
when I was talking to
God.
that editor, I kind of said, "Oh, is it going to be a new name?" Thinking five names. I don't know if I can cope with that. That starts to get silly at some point. And she went, "Oh no, I think Alison May's a great name. I don't know why you've ever changed it."
Hooray.
Yeah, publishing
You know who
publishing
you're
is
talking to.
crazy.
Oh, congratulations on the new deal. That's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about those books. I've just written the first draft of the first one, and it's so much fun.
Oh, fantastic. So you're currently writing the paranormal fantasy as Alison May and Amelia Berry, the
Yes,
romance, um,
rom-coms. Yeah.
rom-coms. How are you going to juggle those different deadlines?
Well, I've sort of been doing it for a few months already because, as you know, obviously, when a book is written and when a book comes out, they bear very little relationship to each other. So by, I think, May next year, I worked out I'll have written five books in 18 months.
Wow.
Which, yeah, some people go, "Oh, wow," but then I
Ambitious.
know other people who write four books a year every year, which just makes me want to go lie down in a darkened room. I've kind of done this sort of as a sprint, but I know that in June I'm going to have a little bit of a break because,
That's phenomenal. I don't know how
yeah.
anybody writes more than one a year, quite frankly. So,
I think it is a bit of a treadmill. There's no two ways around it that. Um, but I also think as writers, the least healthy thing we can do is compare ourselves with other
yeah,
writers.
yeah.
Um, because I won't name drop, but I had this conversation with a very, very successful, very big name, 25 years Sunday Times bestseller, book a year author, and said to him, "Oh yeah, I'm writing 3 books this year and then another 2 in the first 6 months of next year." And he was just like, "Oh my goodness, I could like never do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, but what you're doing is going okay, isn't it? I don't think we need
Yeah.
to make this
Doesn't need to change the
comparison."
strategy.
Yeah, whatever works is
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just a thing of just constantly keep writing, just keep going, just keep writing, just keep writing.
Yeah. What about promoting the books? Do you have different marketing strategies or brands for the different author names?
Um, Not well, in some ways, but not massively. So none of my pen names are secret, as the fact I've just talked to you about them all shows. And that's what was one of my requirements when my publisher asked me to be Amelia Berry. My only pushback was that I had to be allowed to be public about it being me, because that means I can have one set of social media pages, one website. So, for example, I own ameliaberry.co.uk, but if you type that in, it will just bounce you to my Alison May
Okay.
website, to the sort of Amelia Berry page on that website.
Yeah.
For a while, when I first started being Ali Sinclair, I tried to set up completely separate website, new social media and things, but I just found that far too much to manage. It was taking up so much time, and I was getting in a mess of kind of going, "Oh, what do I post here? What do I post there?" And
Yeah.
obviously, because I've been Alice May basically since the birth of social media, those profiles and those pages have way more followers than
Yeah.
anything that I do from a standing
Yeah.
start now. So it kind of seems silly to go, "Oh, well, I'm going to do all this on this brand new page that only has 60 followers when I've got pages that have got several thousand
Yes. And also,
followers already."
people like your style of writing as Alison May, they're going to like your style of writing under a different name, aren't they?
Yeah. And most of the kind of book bloggers and bookstagrammers and people like that who really champion my work have done that across all of my pen names.
Yeah.
So it's for me, I kind of don't separate them massively. It's sort of almost a kind of running joke of, "Oh, it's another day, it's another name." And in a way, that has almost become part of my brand
Yeah.
is, "Oh God, she's the woman with 78 names."
Yeah, that must be one hell of a business card.
Yeah. Yes, you shouldn't have to unscroll a business
Yeah.
card, should you?
So you've just got copy edits in for book. Which name was this under?
So that is the third Highland Cookery School book as Amelia Berry. I sent copy edits back today. So if I'm looking a bit, that's why. Copy edits are my least favourite part of the writing process. I just, once it's structurally all there and the story's all there and all the characters are there, my brain goes, "Finished." And then they send it back to you with like more questions. It just feels terribly unreasonable.
Yeah. So for new authors here who perhaps haven't gone through that stage yet, what exactly are the copy edits?
So copy edits are quite late on in the process. So generally what will happen is you write your draft, you polish it as much as you possibly can, you send it into the publisher. They will come back with, it depends very much on the publisher, but usually you will see that manuscript 3 or 4 more times.
Mm.
So you will generally have a structural edit, which is the bits where your editor says things like, "This makes no sense. Why
Yeah.
does this pregnancy last 2 years?" Tiny, annoying little things like that you go, fine.
Technicality.
And my editors always say, "Can we have more emotion? Can we have more sense of place?" Because I know they're the things that I'm always lacking in my drafts. So that's your kind of big edit. And then sometimes there's a line edit, which is more going through it sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph. And the next stage after that is the copy edit. Now, my publisher tends to combine those, so I get my line edit and my copy edit in one
Mm.
go. So two different editors will have looked at, I'll have two different people's sets of comments. But the copy edit is the real fine detail stuff. So some of it will be things like spelling, grammar, punctuation. A lot of it is things like house style. So this book's the third book in a series. So I've got lots of things that are like, "You spelt this character's this way, name this way in book one, and you seem to have changed it." And I'm like, "Mm, yes, I do, don't I? Whoops." And there's some house style things like, do we capitalize the names of, businesses and things that recur across 3 books that they've just tidied up. And the other thing that this copy edit really went into detail on was the timeline, because I have a pregnancy in this book. Pregnancies are a nightmare in fiction. Never put a pregnancy in a book because it really does set a very tight time scale on when things happen.
Really very that.
Yeah. And so I had lots of notes from this. In the previous chapter, you said she was 7 months pregnant. Now she only appears to be 6 months pregnant and things like that. I was like, right, okay. So I had to go through the timeline with a fine-tooth comb, like, and I actually went through scene by scene with a calendar and kind of marked where I think everything happens. And then had to go back and backfill all the, okay, so 2 weeks has passed between then and then, but they're talking as if only 1 week has passed and I need to tie it up. So it's that real fine detail stuff that for me, I always just find really painful to have to go and through and fix, but I know is the difference between the book feeling polished for a reader and
Mm,
it feeling just slightly. You sometimes read something where the editing just hasn't been quite up to scratch, and you kind of think, oh, this just feels a bit woolly. It just doesn't
yeah.
quite feel complete. And the copy edit is really the thing that makes the difference there, and it just feeling really polished and finished. And there aren't any little loose threads, hopefully, that are going to leave readers going, oh, but she said that, and then this never happened. That kind of niggly stuff.
Yeah, my copy edits are coming in a couple of weeks, due back on the 2nd of January. So that'll be my Christmas treat doing
Oh,
those.
lovely. Yeah, this book should be all done and gone. I'm supposed to get the final proofs, I think, in the middle of December with the goal of sending them back before Christmas. So this book
Yeah,
should be gone and done before Christmas, which will be
that'll be a
nice.
nice feeling. Yes, we have to
Yeah,
celebrate properly. So
yeah.
this is the third book in a series. Do you have any more planned in this series?
Not at the moment, but never say never. These decisions, people always talk about these decisions saying, oh, well, they're commercial decisions for publishers, they're based on how the book's sold. But also, a lot of the time, they're commercial decisions for authors
Mm,
as well. So I have two contracts ongoing at the moment. I I can't carry on. I can't write 2 books a year on both of those contracts long term.
no.
So I'm going to need to make some decisions about what I'm most enjoying writing, where my heart is, where I feel led creatively, what's sustainable, but also what's working hardest for me in terms of sale and
Yeah.
making a living. I'm a career author. I'm not doing this as a hobby. So
Mm,
that question of what's selling best does factor into my decision making. So I'm not going to make a decision, I think, on what I write next until after I've sent in at
mm,
least the first book on my new contract, and then I'm going to take a minute to go, okay, let's have a
yeah.
little look at the lie of the land. Let's have a little think about what we're excited about writing. Because that is a privilege, and I think it's a privilege that you have when you're kind of pre-published that you don't recognize at the time because you're so focused on getting published. But
Mm,
actually, that's a glorious window where you can just write whatever you want.
yeah.
And we don't necessarily get that back
No, and you
once
don't
we're
have a deadline
published.
then either, do you? You might have a
Yeah,
self-imposed one, but you haven't got to work through the night to make sure you get it in
exactly.
time. Yeah.
So I am very intentionally going to carve out a little bit of time at the end of this kind of treadmill run to step back and go, what do I really want to do next? And
Mm.
look at all of the different factors. But just what I'm excited about writing is going to be a really big part of that decision because it isn't always for published authors.
Yeah, which is a shame, isn't it? Because I think it shows in your writing, doesn't it? If you're really enjoying
Yeah,
something.
yeah, it's great to write something that you're excited about, and it tends to just kind of flow more, and you feel that spark of an idea comes, and it kind of sparks something else, and then that sparks something else, and yeah, finding that joy. And I've been really lucky in that the vast majority of books I've written, there has been stuff in them that has sparked that joy.
Mm.
But I do think it's worth taking a moment every, couple of years and kind of going, okay, where next?
Yeah, yeah. That's great that you're evolving all the time. Um, so what advice do you have for authors who are thinking about a pen name or two or four?
Well, the first thing is it won't necessarily always be your decision.
Mm,
Um, so that's a weird thing to get your head around. We sort of know, I think, that publishers change book titles all the time, and that's not necessarily your decision. But publishers will quite often come to authors and say, basically things like, "We think your name sounds too old," or you go, "Oh, that's
get
disheartening."
rid of one. We don't want that, thanks.
Yeah. Or they already have an author with like a similar name in the same space and they
Yeah.
want some brand. So also it isn't always your decision is the first thing. Um, the second thing I think is to think about what you want. If it's your burning dream to have your name, the name that is on your passport, the name that is on your birth certificate, on the cover of a book, if that is what is driving you, then it's okay to kind of push back if a publisher wants you to change it. Have that conversation before you sign the contract. because
Yeah.
once you've signed the contract, it's much, much more difficult to push back. But if that is absolutely your dream, hold on to it. For me, the thing that surprised me actually is how little that bothers me.
Mm.
Because I sort of always thought, that I would write as Alison May, and then maybe later in my career I'd write something as Alison Maynard. But I'm kind of, and I may still, but it's not a goal particularly at all. To the point where I forget that Alison May isn't my real name.
Mm.
So if I have to sign something legal, like actually as me, I will quite often like half sign it and then have to kind of mentally go, "Ooh, and the rest."
Oh, just got to add something there.
Me and my husband watched ages ago, Who Do You Think You Are? You know, the genealogy show.
Yeah.
Um, and it was Lee Mack, the comedian.
Sorry, my daughter
And
just spoke.
yeah, yeah, I saw. It was Lee Mack, the comedian, and Mack isn't his real name. I can't remember what it was. It's Macintosh or Mackenzie or something. And that was like in the introduction, because obviously they're looking at his family tree, so they have his real surname there. And I said out loud to my husband, "Oh, that's weird. He just shortened his name. I wonder if you get used to that." And he looked at me and he looked at me, and it took a good like 5 seconds before the penny dropped. And I went, "Oh yeah, I think you get used to it." Yeah, genuinely forgotten that it wasn't my real name.
Well, as you say, you're a career author. This is your career, and you have taken on that persona
Yeah.
completely. So,
Yeah.
um,
So Amelia Berry, I know isn't me, and I do have a sense that I'm kind of being Amelia. I think Amelia is a bit perkier and a bit more cheerful and a bit shinier and happier than I am. She's a sort of better version of me. So I have a sense that Amelia Berry is a brand name, but Alison May, I have just completely forgotten it's not my name. So I would say don't get too hung up on it unless it really is your burning, burning dream to have your birth name on
yeah,
the cover.
the downside of my surname Wyman, I'm always going to be in the bottom shelf. You have to be able to lie down to
Yeah.
see. And my books, two of them, Wife Support System and Would You Ask My Husband That, are also W's. So
Oh, you've gone for a lot of W's there, haven't you?
no chance of ever being found unless someone falls. Just absolutely
Um,
flat on the floor.
there is a really famous quote. I think it's Terry Pratchett when someone asked him what's the best sort of pen name to adopt, and he said one that's at about eye level.
Yes. It's very good advice. I should have got that quote before I went with my name. Right, so I don't know how you find time to do this, but you're also a fiction tutor. Um,
Yes.
how did that come about, and how
Uh,
like with
well,
that?
I was a teacher before I was a writer. So I said I worked for the Citizens Advice Bureau, and I was first writing. I was the training manager for the Citizens Advice Bureau. So I trained advisors. Before that, I worked in like adult literacy and numeracy and basic IT skills, adult education. And then I was for the lot of the time I was writing for the first kind of 4 or 5 years of my writing career. I worked as a freelance trainer in the voluntary sector
Mhm.
still.
Yeah.
So I taught before I was a writer. So it's kind of my happy place, to
Oh,
be honest,
yeah.
teaching. Um, and I just love it. So it was never really a decision. It was more just that I taught, and what I taught evolved as what I was doing in my career evolved. I do have a degree in creative writing. It's not a useful degree, but it was lots of fun to do. And I have a PGCE, so it kind of naturally sort of
Yeah.
sits together.
Yeah.
Um, and just working with developing authors is the most fun thing in the world because you know how like working out what's not working in your own book is a nightmare and it's really hard work. Working out what's not working in someone else's book is an absolute walk in the park. Other people's books are so much more straightforward because when someone sends me a manuscript or a synopsis, all I read is what's actually there.
Yeah.
Whereas when you
Rather than
read
what
your
you
own work,
know.
you read every thought you've had about it, you read everything you intended to put in it and didn't, you read every subplot you thought of and then took out, and it's all still kind of clamoring for attention in your brain. Whereas someone else sends you something, you look at exactly what's there and you can go tweak that, tweak that. I'm not sure both these characters are necessary. Could you merge them together? And they go, oh yeah, lights on, pennies dropping all over the place. And it's just really empowering as well to give people the tools to go away and be able to do that with their own work. And I also, can I have like 2 minutes on a soapbox? Is that allowed?
Go for it. We'll just
I
edit
don't
it
know if
afterwards.
I
It's
don't know if you've noticed, but publishing can be a tad middle class. Just a smidgen.
yeah.
And there are so many. courses for writers now. There are so many writing academies, online academies, all of these things, many of which are brilliant. And there's like membership schemes like author events have, which I think is brilliant for networking and connecting people. And there's all of these different things. Um, but you can spend thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds as a developing author
Mhm.
before you're at the point of submitting. And some of those academies are brilliant and really empower their students. Others, I think, sometimes encourage writers to be dependent on them because that's an ongoing income stream. So I'm kind of quite passionate about offering stuff that's at a reasonable cost that helps people develop the skills they need to kind of navigate this industry on their own. So I do things like pay what you can, one-to-ones, um,
That's really
and
nice.
that kind of thing, just because I think all of that stuff where if it becomes normal that you have to invest thousands and thousands of pounds before your manuscript is ready for submission, that just skews our whole industry
Yeah.
because
It
editors are
eliminates
only
lots.
seeing manuscripts that have been through those processes. And that it scares me, genuinely scares me about how that narrows the stories that end up getting told. So yeah, that was my soapbox moment. Sorry, it wasn't terribly funny or amusing. Um,
No,
but
no,
I
it's a
think,
really valid point because
yeah,
everyone should have the opportunity, shouldn't they? It shouldn't be governed by only those who can afford to
yeah.
do that. So that's a
So I
really lovely thing
try,
that you do. Yeah.
yeah, and I try more and more to work with. So I'm doing a course next year with Writing West Midlands, who obviously it's a paid for course and I get paid for running it, but they do also offer bursaries and fee discounts and things like that. So I'm kind of focusing more and more on kind of what I can do that's going to be accessible
Yeah.
to the widest range of people.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's really lovely. So with your students, what would you say are the biggest challenges they have and how do you help them overcome them? What's the
Well,
biggest?
I work a lot one-to-one these days, so it's very, very individual.
Yeah.
There are some things that are kind of craft things that just make the world of difference, that they're things that once the penny drops, it changes someone's writing kind of night to day. The thing writing tutors always talk about and bang on about and bang on about is show, don't tell, which isn't a phrase I try, it's a phrase I try not to use because I think it's one of the least understood and most poorly explained ideas in writing. But learning that thing of how you write in a way that pulls a reader in rather than just being a flat set of text that they are slightly disengaged from, that hurdle, I think, is the biggest single thing that once people get over it, their
Mhm.
writing absolutely changes.
Yeah.
And then that's when you're writing the draft. The next big hurdle is editing. Learning to edit your own work is critical. And that is a whole other set of skills because most people start writing because they love being creative. And that thing of creating a first draft is one thing. But then the thing of sitting down and analysing it and going, how is this actually going to work for a reader is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And then this industry messes with people's heads.
Mm.
Realistically, we live on a diet of hope and rejection. And
Yeah.
that is a slightly crazy circle to be kind of caught in.
That we're
Uh,
putting ourselves through voluntarily.
yeah. So I do a lot of work with developing authors about just managing your own career, taking control of the things that you can control, not just being a sort of, floating on the sort of tides of what the industry is doing around you. What can you manage? What can you take control of? How can you put yourself in the best possible position for the next step? And that might be self-publishing, it might be agent, it might be subbing direct to publishers. It's very, very individual. But I do a lot of work with authors who are kind of at that stage of their career. They have a manuscript that's close to ready to go, but how do they progress from there?
Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic. And what would you say are your top writing tips? You probably
Ooh.
3,000, but if we could just
I mean, I
anyway.
could do an essay, but
Yeah.
I will resist. I
Get back on
will.
that soapbox. Give us a presentation.
I will resist the urge. Um, I think the best piece of writing advice, actual writing craft advice I've ever been given, I will credit to Sue Moorcroft because she was who said it to me. Brilliant writer of
Yep.
romance and women's fiction. And it was the advice to go deeper, not wider. So what that means is when you have a manuscript that feels a bit flat, very often a midsection of a manuscript that feels a bit flat, our natural instinct is very often to throw more events at it. More stuff needs to happen, more plot needs to happen.
Yeah.
Um, But actually, car chase, car chase, car chase, car chase is just as boring as person sits and thinks, person sits and thinks, person sits and
Yeah.
thinks.
Mm.
Very often, the problem isn't that you don't have enough happening, it's that you haven't gone deep enough into your characters. Because ideally, the way that a story works is something happens and that pushes your character into an action. And if you know who your character is, absolutely on their deepest level, you know what their fatal flaws are, you know what that dark secret they're carrying is, that is going to govern how they react to the stuff that happens. And if they're reacting to the stuff that happens, then their reactions are driving the plot forward. And you don't need to throw car chase, car chase, car chase at them because they're doing stuff that's making story happen. So
Yeah.
that is always my biggest thing. And it's probably, apart from variations on the ideas of showing rather than telling, it's probably the single biggest thing I work with writers on in
Yeah.
terms of craft.
Yeah, that's brilliant advice. Thank you. Um, so yes, if you can tell us now about when your next books are out and how people can find you, that would be great. Give yourself a little, get on the box, give yourself a little plug now.
Little plug. Okay, so my current book is out right now, cooking up a Christmas storm, cooking up a Christmas
Lovely, very well
storm.
timed.
There you go. Writing as Amelia Berry. This is the second Highland Cookery School book. So the first book in the series is A Recipe for Love. The second one is just out for this Christmas. And the third one, Stirring Up a Love Story, will be out next spring.
Well, I just
Then watch this
thought,
space for
yeah,
my reappearance as Alison May next autumn with my first paranormal crime. And if you want to follow any of that, if you go to alison-may.co.uk, everything is there and you can sign up for my newsletter there. You can find me on Instagram as at Ms. Alison May, and you can find me on YouTube as Ali Allison.
fantastic. Thank you. Well done for conquering YouTube. And I've just had a thought. Amelia Berry, is that inspired by Mary Berry?
Yeah, so all of the books are set in a cookery school. So they wanted, the brief was they wanted something that sounded fun, positive, and cookery related. So at one point, I think I was going to be Olivia Berry, but I'm quite northern and slightly working class. I just didn't think I could pull off Olivia. It felt like too. It was Amelia. I was like, yeah, I can manage Amelia if I
Amelia
have to.
Berry, that's a good name. Like you
Yeah,
said, it's a nice, buoyant, uplifting
yes,
name.
very perky, Amelia.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. Congratulations on all your successes. Really appreciate you coming on and chatting.
Thank you for
So
having me.
everyone watching, make sure you subscribe to Author Events UK on YouTube so that you can get notifications when every interview drops every 2 weeks, and go back through the back catalogue as well, because there's lots of interviews with other amazing authors and Simon& Schuster's publishing powerhouse, Sarah Jade Virtue. There's Millie Johnson, Page Two, and loads of people. So yes, make sure you catch up. And thank you for your time, Alison. Really lovely to talk to you, and can't wait to read all your books under all
Thank
the many
you.
names. Take care. Bye. Bye.